This is the 6th chapter of The Angels Within Us by John Randolph Price, who happens to be the author of Super Beings as well. It's been a while since I've recorded a chapter. This one came to me as the next chapter to read, which is about the Hierophant. This chapter is called The Angel of Spiritual Understanding. The Angel of Spiritual Understanding stands at its gate of expression to help us grasp, comprehend, absorb, interpret, know, and appreciate the meaning of all things, including ourselves. And one of the greatest services that this energy provides is open-mindedness, an attribute that most of us could use a heaping measure. Accordingly, the birthplace of true understanding is right within our consciousness. As that dynamic energy begins to work in our minds, we first develop an intellectual understanding of our divine constitution as it seeps into our emotional nature. A sense of knowing is registered subjectively. We are beginning to realize the truth of our nature. But realization is by degrees, and it is not until we have elevated understanding to its highest spiritual level that we move into knowingness, where we know and know that we know. Emily H. Cady, an early 20th century medical doctor, spiritual teacher, and author of Lessons in Truth, has written, "You may easily grasp with the mind the statement that God is the giver of all good things, life, health, love, just as people have for centuries grasped it. Or you may go further and intellectually see that God is not only the giver, but the gift itself, that He is life, health, love in us. But unless truth is revealed unto thee by my Father who is in heaven," Matthew 16:17, "it is of no practical benefit to you or to anyone else. This revelation of truth to the consciousness of a person is spiritual understanding. You may say to yourself that we are well and wise and happy. On the mental plane, a certain, quote, cure is effected, and for a time you will feel well and wise and happy. This is simply a form of hypnotism or mind cure. But until, down in the deeps of your being, you are conscious of your oneness with the Father, you will not have spiritual understanding. At this point, we should inquire as to the difference between understanding and wisdom. In this chapter discussing the angel of creative wisdom, we found that wisdom was skill in action, the know-how to solve any problem, and the ability to fulfill one's needs. Understanding, on the other hand, is more of a contemplative form of energy that is thoughtful, meditative, cognitive. Understanding brings the conscious mind into greater rapport with the soul, where the realization of our divine identity can take place. True understanding also opens the mind to harmlessness, where the motive behind all activity is good. As stated, the first step in gaining understanding is to become aware of who and what you are, and to broaden that awareness to include everyone without exception. It is being conscious of the spiritual principle of selfhood, the truth that the Spirit of God is expressing as your individuality, your divine self, which in turn expresses through your personality on the lower plane. Your divine consciousness, yourself, is God's center for expression, and your personality is your channel through which the fullness of the kingdom radiates. Look at it another way. You have a physical body, an emotional body, and a mental body, but you are a spiritual being, a light body, a divine individual. This truth of you is known as the high self, soul, Christ Self, Superconsciousness, Angel of the Presence, Son of God, and the Holy I Am. Whatever you call it, it is the presence of you embodying the fullness of the Godhead. You are God being you. The awareness of this truth is the building block of spiritual understanding. From this point, your awareness must expand awareness to grasp the fact that at the central core of you, you are literally connected and united with every you, me, and I in existence on this side of the veil and beyond. Every self in all the universe is actually one pure, undivided essence. As an analogy, it is the light of the sun everywhere present on a clear day or the endless water of an infinite ocean. Remember that the definition of the word individual is an indivisible entity, which means that there is not and cannot be any separation in the selfhood of God. The distinctions are simply cells of consciousness within the one body of God. I am you, and you are me, and we are everyone else. Contemplate this truth. An understanding of who and what you are leads to loving gentleness and true harmlessness. A true tone and rhythm emerge in consciousness, and your loving contact with others becomes your point of service. You begin to understand people, their strengths, their weaknesses, their victories and defeats, their needs and aspirations. Your zealot stance on causes and issues soften because your focus is on the truth of being. And if someone does not share your third dimensional beliefs, you do not feel attacked or rejected, nor do you feel the need to attack or reject others. You practice harmlessness, for true understanding involves identification with everyone as yourself. Whereas before, under the glamour of idealism, you sacrifice the spirit of love. You now see more inclusively and avoid the former areas of misunderstanding. Your stubbornness and separative superiority give way to loving understanding of all parts of the whole. It is extremely difficult to practice unconditional love until the energy of spiritual understanding is flowing freely. Otherwise, we are going to be caught up in another's pettiness, rigid expectations, and closed mind. But with loving kindness, we can see his or her divine value, express love with no strings attached, and know that this too shall pass. As the person releases the critical spirit and becomes centered in truth, what does it mean to be understanding? Think about the meaning of loving detachment while standing in your spiritual beingness. It is putting up your sword and seeing through the eyes of your adversary. It is the development of spiritual empathy, the projection of your own consciousness into the consciousness of another in order to understand the person better. All pairs of opposites should do this: vegetarians and meat eaters, feminists and chauvinists, non smokers and smokers, alcoholics and abstainers, pro choicers and anti abortionists, liberals and conservatives, religionists and atheists, New Agers and fundamentalists, exercise fanatics and couch potatoes, gays and straights, and other shades of polarity. Impossible? No. Difficult? Perhaps. But when you consider that your reawakening and remembering of spiritual mastery depend on it, you know that it is time to start moving in the right direction. You begin with the decision to change your attitude, and from that changing of gears in consciousness will become the power to help you see truth and reality from the level of the soul rather than from that of the personality. As an exercise in making that shift, think about those things that distress you in this world, the ones that cause you anguish and anger. Look at rites, causes, and crusades that evoke a hostile reaction in you. Then examine anything else in your life that is causing strong emotional reaction. Now, to the extent that it is possible, become very detached from all of the above. Keep working at it in consciousness until you have released everything with an attitude that it's just not worth getting upset about. Then in your mind, see yourself on a stage, and painted on the stage is a long white line. Find the center of the line and see yourself standing right at the point of equilibrium, in perfect balance. Now, observe each end of the line, the points representing the polar opposites of everything that charged your emotions. Look carefully at both sides of the issue. In all likelihood, there is still a trace of anger or despair regarding your emotional involvement with one of the opposites. That is your personality still holding on. Turn on your imagination faculty now and see yourself as living beyond the veil, out of incarnation, functioning in your light body, and watching what is happening on the third dimensional plane. See the battle for hearts and minds taking place below with silent detachment. Remember that we all script our roles to have an experience to learn our lessons. So, what you are seeing is an earthbound stage play composed of people dealing with effects initiated somewhere on some level at some time, and they are working with these effects as the catalyst for their learning experience. But you have nothing to do with it. You are only an impersonal and indifferent observer. Keep watching the production until you clearly see the motivation from each side of every question. And know that you are observing the mindsets involved through the light of understanding. You are being understanding. And as you let this energy of understanding circulate through your consciousness, you will realize that you are being harmless in your thinking and loving in your feeling nature. Once you have developed a deep awareness of yourself and others as yourself, and have found that point of universal balance, you are ready to understand more of the cosmic mysteries. You have opened your mind to grasp and appreciate spiritual principles and to devolve into, with understanding, the sciences of attraction, color, creation, energy, force, healing, light, manifestation, radiation, sound, and symbols, to name only a few, all of which will enable you to grow in knowledge and to assist others in the awakening process. And remember, you have a holy helper who will be with you on this journey into knowingness. The angel of spiritual understanding was referred to in the wisdom teachings as the Grand Master and the priest of the mysteries, the masculine counterpart of the angel of creative wisdom. Was also considered the archetype corresponding to the initiator or master teacher. In the early sacred academies, the one who taught reconciliation, union, and immortality. This power center within each individual's force field is constantly radiating its energy to create and sustain as experiences in the phenomenal world as they relate specifically to understanding. If unburied by ego, the divine thought form will open our mind to receive deep spiritual truths from our source. However, if repressed by ego projections, we become opinionated, stubborn, and obstinate, with a know it all attitude and an unyielding personality. This angel is reflected in the tarot as the high priest or the Hierophant. The pillars on the card symbolize the law of polarity, the interplay of the pairs of opposites. The other designs represent the union of the opposites and the elevation of consciousness to the plane of spiritual understanding and reality. In esoteric astrology, the energy of this archetype represented by Taurus. Alice A. Bailey, author of more than 20 books on ageless wisdom, in collaboration with the Tibetan master Dual Qual, who wrote, Taurus forges the instrument of constructive living or the destruction. It forges the chain which binds or creates the key which unlocks the mystery of life. This energy manifests as stubbornness in the average man, or as intelligently expressed will actuated by the impulse, actuated by the love in the advanced man. According to the Symphony of the Zodiac by Torque Saradarian, a philosopher, lecturer, and writer from Asia Minor, considered an authority on energies. The eye shining from the head of the constellation of Taurus is the transmitter of the cosmic light, which is called the penetrating light of the path. I would call it the waiting eye, the light of which shines as a beacon on a stormy ocean of life and leads the planetary and solar pilgrims toward the path of higher and higher spirals. Those who are inspired by the light of the eye of Taurus seek to work out the divine plan, to understand the will of God, and put their divinity into action and expression. Think about it. Right within your auric field is the angel of spiritual understanding, a divine force, an agent of cosmic law that will create a new vibration of higher understanding at the very point of your objective consciousness. If you will only break down the inflexible patterns in your mind, this energy extension from your essential being will interpret the divine voice and communicate spiritual truths to help you master the lessons of living in this world. The world in which most people live is not heaven on earth. It is a product of the collective consciousness, which consistently mirrors duality. It is a false world produced by mind and is why it is called an illusion. When you contemplate the God self I am as infinite supply, wholeness, perfection, creative success, peace, and the essence of all relationship, you are deepening your awareness of the truth of your reality. And that warm, loving, pulsating vibration in your heart center is the energy of truth rising to the surface to make you free. How does it free you? The light of truth radiating from you reveals the absence of sickness, discord, lack, and limitation. And it does this by dissolving the thought form illusion that had been projected by your mind. When you suddenly, quote, get well or have an all sufficiency or supply to meet your needs, it is not because God has healed your body or prospered your affairs. It is because the light of the truth has revealed that there is no reality to sickness or scarcity. All seeming miracles are simply the evidence of God fulfilling the law of harmony through your realization of truth. As I work with the angel of spiritual understanding, it becomes very clear why the ancients referred to this archetype as the realm of knowledge and insight, one who rules a spiritual kingdom and stands for an important teacher. Ask your Holy Spirit to take you to meet this Hierophant. When you make contact, either through feeling or with the inner eye, express your love and gratitude for its mighty work, and then ask, what can I do to assist you in establishing the vibration of spiritual understanding in my consciousness? Write the answer in your spiritual journal and go to work immediately on that which needs to be done. In preparation for this meeting, let's meditate. Obviously, this is an optional meditation. Here we go. Most High within, I come before you this day to release everything that is holding me back from spiritual understanding. I give up all judgment and criticism. For to judge and criticize another is to pass sentence on myself, and I choose to be free. I surrender my closed-mindedness, my opinionated views, my inflexible attitudes, my unyielding personality, for I have bound myself in the mire of projecting my own expectations and convictions upon others, and I choose to be free. As I free them, I free myself, and I shall now walk the path together as holy brothers and sisters in the light. I am a seeker of truth, and I open my mind to the divine inflow of spiritual understanding. I feel the magnificent energy of knowingness filling me now. My very consciousness is being initiated into the mysteries of life. And in this sacred ceremony, I ask you, my radiant presence, to mold me to the divine will and let me dwell constantly in the realization of who I am and in the eternal oneness of selfhood. I now accept the mantle of understanding, and so it is, and so it is, and so be it.